everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's Aiden here from Brink Events, as usual. Very excited to have Joe Mineo here from Joe Mineo Creative out in Ohio. This is our third edition of Focal Points. This is the interview series where we interview top event designers from around the world to see what makes them tick. And what an interesting time we're going to have for you today. It is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day 2020. And we are living in a time right now where it's very interesting, you know, with the coronavirus and COVID-19 sweeping the globe, not only for the events industry, but I think for everybody around the world. It's a very interesting time to be alive right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the next few weeks and few months hold. So without further ado, though, Joe, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking this time during this interesting situation. So thanks for being here.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. We're not doing anything else, so why not, right?
I was going to say, you know, I was hoping you wouldn't cancel on me here because I figured, you know what, if we're just doing a video call from home or the office anyways, then there's no reason not to. So I appreciate you being here anyways.
For sure.
So let's just start with the obvious. You know, you and I both have events coming up. How are you guys handling these events coming up? What do you got coming up? So
we were really lucky that we only had one event in the month of April, and even that event was not that large. They're going to move. They actually already rebooked for Thanksgiving weekend. Our biggest challenge is, you know, May was huge this year. We starting off with May 2nd with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, which has now been postponed. Trying to find a new date for them is challenging. Well, they're actually looking for October or November. I'm like most clients. So that's going to be challenging. And, you know, because now we've already committed to the Rock Hall and I've already committed to my clients in October and November already. So if those dates overlap, we have to create some type of magic to be able to produce all of that. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that they pick a date that works with us. Otherwise, all of these social events we're finding for May, they're kind of dragging their feet a little. Yeah. If they let's wait and see. But the biggest challenge we're having is, you know, there's only so many Saturdays in a year for the rest of the year, and even trying to move the clients to other dates have become a challenge now. So that's our problem right now. I'm not getting too many cancellations as much as when can we move it, how far can we go out, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, that's what we're finding too, and that's what we're hoping, at least from a financial and work perspective, because if people cancel, not only is that a detriment financially, but all this work has gone in too. So at least for you guys, you know, Rock and Roll Hall, for example, if you can at least move it, at least the design work you've done, the time you've put in, the financials behind that, just get postponed a little bit, which in this time, I mean, you're just going to have to make concessions, but at least it isn't outright canceled. And that's the same with us, you know. We don't mind moving the dates, prefer not to cancel at all costs if possible, but we realize certain situations you can't move it. But I guess that's what a lot of planners are experiencing right now.
I agree. And, you know, and I don't think anybody definitely is in, you know, they all want to have their events. I don't think I think what I'm worried about is what's going to happen financially to all of us, including our clients, where if they do have the event, will it have to be downscaled? Yeah. You know, I've always been a person that always looks forward and never looks behind and never, you know, just tries to keep on focusing forward, which is really challenging at this very moment. But, you know, there is something to say that we're all in this together, not just us in this industry, but us all over. And, you know, when you think about that the entire world is dealing with this, it's mind-boggling, because never in our lifetime, or my family or my parents or my grandparents' lifetime, you know, have they ever dealt with something quite like this. So like you said, it's definitely an interesting time to be on this earth. It's just a matter of, you know, we're going to get through it. It's not that we're not, let's face it. It's a little bit challenging in my mind, because this was the year that we were actually, you know, really hitting all of our expectations. financially, event-wise. We were like already hit our mark of what we planned on doing for this year, and everything was going to be gravy.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. I mean, at least we're still producing events. My team is still here working. We're spread out. We have had to let a few people, let them go for hopefully only a month, and then they'll be back. But which I've never done in my history of 32 years. I've never laid anybody off before. So, but everyone certainly understands, and hopefully we'll get everybody back soon, and we'll be back on track.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think we've ever had a period though where even laws come into place where it governs the maximum amount of people you have. Like I know for us it's 50. I think, are you guys the same down there?
No, we're down to 10.
You're down to 10. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So that really hampers the ability to have an event. So, I mean, that aside though, another question I have for you that I think is quite interesting is, let's say this virus, goes away in the next month or so, or month and a half, and you have an event 2 or 2.5 months from now. Sure, the virus is gone, the bans are lifted. Are people going to want to go to live events? Are they still a little bit paranoid? That's one of the things that I'm talking to my clients about is, whether it's a ticketed event, like a charity event or a social event or a staff event or whatnot, are people even going to want to come in 2 months or 3 months? Maybe 6 months, okay, you're over the hump now, but 2 or 3 months, is the room going to be full even?
Well, I think that's all to be seen depending on how bad this really gets. If you ask me that question today, I would say, we'll be right back on track. Yeah. But let's face it, as we're hearing, we haven't seen the worst of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see what's happening in Italy, so that's what we have to just keep in mind, that we don't know where are we going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation in the office the other day, and the question is, are there going to be people that have been, cooped up, they're ready to get out, and they're like, you know what, we got the okay, we're out of here, or is it going to be the other, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be people that are so paranoid? But I guess it's all going to depend on how fast we can get this virus under control.
Yeah.
And right now we seem to be working at a snail's pace.
Yeah. Well, different countries different than others though too, right? So I agree with you though. We're human beings. We crave social interaction, and the hope is that if we're socially isolated for even 2 weeks, I think we're going to go stir crazy. So hopefully 2-3 months from now, we're just looking for that social interaction, and hopefully the paranoia and the hump is over. So another question I have is tell me how you're dealing with this. Is people are asking me, do we have like a company policy around this or whatnot? I think you got to take it case by case with almost every event, depending on the size, the dates, the location, the amount of people and everything. I don't think you can really have like a blanket policy you can send all your clients and say, here's how we're dealing with this.
Right. That's exactly. We haven't had that question of what is your policy. Our policy is, let's figure this out. Right. We have reached out to all of our clients. We sent them all an email saying, we are here to talk to you when you're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't want to do was put the pressure on them. We've got to talk about this. And I didn't want that. I wanted to leisurely say, when you're ready to discuss your event, you call us and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think that was a way to go. There's probably a third of those clients we haven't even heard back from yet.
Yeah.
I think they're really just stalling it, hoping that things will get better and we're back on track, but we'll see. Why would we have a policy for this?
Exactly. And I think it's a time game. I really don't think you can speed up time. Like, you can't speed up time. Let's see what happens this week. Let's see what happens next week. And then maybe make some calls within the next 2 weeks in terms of plans going forward.
I think we're all going to be making changes in our future contracts, don't you think? I had Act of God in my contract for years. When it was taken out a few years ago, we were just chatting about this in the office. For some reason, none of us even remember why we took it out. But, all of our events are non-refundable. So when we do ask for our deposit, we then ask for 50% of the balance after the client has approved the design. So that is non-refundable. But if a client called me and said, listen, I can't have this event, I would still honor that even for a future event. Or, I would do whatever I got to do. Because, obviously we can't play hardball. That's not going to get us anywhere. But, we still also need deposits coming in for events that are, and everyone's afraid to open up their checkbook. I haven't gotten to the point yet, but we've talked about it. And I said, I'm going to get those particular clients that owe us their deposit still, get them on the phone and graciously say, this is where we are. We know you owe it. We owe you, you owe the deposit before this all happened. And, people sometimes drag their feet. We're hoping that you'd be okay. I'm just going to really just talk it through with them because they also understand where we are. Financially, this is really going to be hurting us. And, my accountants have already figured out when we run out of money. They know how far we can go before we're going to have a challenge with payroll. So, that's the trick. And at least we know that as a company, and we're doing everything we have to do to minimize any kind of financials that are going to be eating up that, the amounts of monies that we have saved. But, there's only so much we can do. You hear these rumors that it could be going all through the summer now.
You don't know. And you can't know. It's out of our control anyway. So all we can do is take it day by day, week by week. It's a cliche to say at this point, but what more can you do? It's really not within our control, and there's nothing. Even with laws governing this kind of stuff, it's even beyond our legal ability to have things and such. So until that fades, all we can do is take it day by day, and I don't know, try and enjoy life too, right? I think we gotta.
Which, here in Ohio, they did close all of the restaurants, all of the bars about 4 days ago. We heard through the grapevine that maybe all the grocery stores will be closing now.
Wow.
Which could be a problem. So I'm going to actually head back there. I thought I had everything I need, but now I'm a little more frightened. So I might need some more lettuce.
That would be even more deeper than what Italy's doing, isn't it? Has anybody in the world closed their grocery stores? I haven't heard of that. Wow.
I know. We in Ohio and Chicago, they closed all the schools. We were the first two states to go ahead and do that. And now, people states are following through. But in the same breath, I certainly would rather be safe than sorry. So, it's going to be what it is. And it's not that we haven't been prepared. We have known that this might be coming. So I think at this point, everyone is a little, or definitely more prepared than underprepared, right?
Okay, well, you know what? I have some questions I want to ask that are more on the design and positive side. So let's maybe move towards that and give this a little bit more of an upbeat tick, I guess you could say at this point. So, just tell everybody a little bit about your background and what you were doing before you got into events.
Sure. So I have had my company for 32 years, and I went to NYU with a degree in theater. And when I finished, I came back to Ohio thinking it was going to be for a small amount of time. But I needed to pay my bills. So I started working for a local flower shop. And within a year, I had my own company. You're 24 years old, you're fearless, you have nothing to lose. And at the time, we were just a traditional flower shop that did events or, weddings mostly. And at the time, making a floral arrangement and lifting it up on some type of vase was the ooh la la of design, because there was no such thing as event design at the time. So I often say that it's been nice to be a leader in this industry as the industry became an industry, right? So as it developed and there was such a thing as event designers, it's been nice to be someone steering that. And so we sold our retail store. I sold the retail store about 3 years ago, and I only focus on parties now. So no daily work, just events beginning to end. And then for many years, we were also planners, very much like yourself. But 2 years ago, we pulled away from planning and went back to design, because there are a lot of party planners in our area. And we knew that as throughout the US, and I knew that my true love is design. I never really enjoyed the planning aspect of it. I love the idea of the control of it, that it is a JMC event. I do like that, but there's a lot that comes with that, as you know, right? A lot of pressure. And so by pulling back, we've been very lucky, though, that a lot of party planners have hired us now to do the design work for them. And the nice thing about that is that not only are they bringing us great opportunities and great jobs, we are actually helping them build their brand.
Portfolio,
because now we're all working as a team.
Yeah, and the client, your actual clients are more the planners than the actual end clients. So you get
Very
to
much
use,
so.
you get to use them as the buffer, which is probably quite nice, not having to deal with the end clients all the time. Which
true.
You know,
that is very
we
true.
do have to do being the planners. So
right, and there are clients where I'll never even meet them. Depending how the planner wants to work. Many times I will work under their brand. So the client might never know who Joe Mineo is. And then there are other times the planner needs me to tap dance for the client for whatever reason. And then there's a relationship there between all of us. So I'll work in whatever way you want me to work.
Well, and you know what? Event planning, as we know full well, isn't the parties. It's checklist, it's project management, it's all that stuff. And I know all about that. And sounds like you're taking that out of the game and more focusing on the design, the visual. I don't want to call it always the fun stuff, but definitely the more creative stuff. So I can definitely appreciate that side of things. So what is it that you like so much about the industry? What is your favorite part?
Well, going back to, my background in theater, I always design events thinking kind of in that same category of events where there's a prelude to the show, there's the first act, there's an intermission, there's the 11 o'clock number, there's the curtain call. And I kind of design with that in mind, and that's the flow of the event. I like the idea of the dramatic, for sure. And when I design an event that lets me do that, I really try to push that as far as I can. Whatever aspect that is, even if it's in culinary or if it's the invitation or whatever design element it is, I always like for it to be as dramatic as possible. I've always been one to love design. It's always been a big part of my life. Even in high school and in grade school and art and things like that. And, not even years, probably a few years into my opening up my company, I then had flashbacks of myself as a child planning, probably maybe 9, 10 years old, planning parties in my backyard. When my friends couldn't come out to play, I remember thinking, okay, the cake table's going to go there and the bridal table's going to go here. And it's so funny, and I would pull flowers off the branches of the trees to make bouquets. And I never really thought about it until I was in the industry, and then it kind of hit me. So it's kind of funny. But so I guess you could say it's always been in my blood. But there is something special, as you know, to have the most important days of people's lives in your hands. Because when they think back about that special day and that special time, you're the person they think of. So there, a lot of people can't say this in this world, right? So that is really, really special. But it also brings on the pressure, doesn't it?
A lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, and especially when you're, at the top or near the top, like yourself, depending on how you look at it, your clients are some of the most notable people, notable companies, notable charities, and they're looking at you to innovate every single time, raise the bar every single time. And you know what? That's exciting. You get great budgets sometimes, and you get a lot of creative freedom, but you got to pull it off. You only get one shot, right? Events are live theater. You better do a damn good job here. So
correct.
Tell me about that.
That is very, very true. Very true.
So what is something you don't like about the industry, though? So let's a lot of people sugarcoat this. You throw parties, flowers here, draping over here, lighting. There's some darker sides, and there's some things that aren't so fun. So maybe tell people a little bit about what you don't like, or the darker sides of the industry?
I think as many industries, staffing is a huge part, right? So, I find that we're really having a hard time finding the right people, but more than that, when I speak nationally, I usually at some point of my speech, I say to people, and usually the audience is filled with people in the industry, and I'll say, if you are not prepared on a Saturday night to be bloody in a corner at 2 a.m. and not ready to go back Monday morning with a big smile on your face, this is not for you, right? Because you're going to be bloody in a corner on a Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And you need to look forward to coming back to work on Monday. It is a hard industry to be in, not only emotionally with all the stress, but physically, it is tough. So, what I call my prep team, my team that is preparing everything to go out, loading trucks, installing, tearing down at 3 a.m., getting back to the studio, unloading it all, and doing it again the next week. So it's tough. And I've had many employees over the years who've been with me for years, only last so long because their bodies can only take so much, right? Yeah. And sometimes I don't have the place to put them in the company where, okay, well, you don't want to do that part of the business anymore, so I'm going to give you an office job. Well, sometimes there's no office jobs to give. So I find that especially right now, and the whole millennial situation is a whole nother conversation, but we are just really struggling with the right people, to fill. And I'm not even saying that even with just our prep team, but right now I definitely need to hire another designer to help me personally. And I'm not finding that right person. So everyone thinks they understand what it's going to take, but they think it's going to be this fun. How much, for years when I was in the floral industry, people would say, how fun that must be every day to play with flowers.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wish that was the case.
Exactly.
And there are days that it's wonderful to play with flowers. But that's not a business, So that's my biggest challenge that I'm going through right now, probably for the last 2 years. So when you ask me that question, Aiden, that's the first thing I have to say. And I guess the next thing I would say is the urgency of clients. So because we can pick up this and I can Google anything I want and get an answer in about 3 seconds, right? Right. So because of that, that's how clients are responding. They want everything immediately, and we try our best to produce that because we know we can't change what the world wants. We can't be realistic and say, well, wait a minute, you really can't. That's not working for me. And I've heard many people in this industry say, oh no, they're going to work on my timeline, not for me, not for me. And even I've had arguments with I wouldn't say arguments, but major conversations with my team members saying this is crazy, like we're jumping through hoops, but that's what we do. But what's happening is not only do they want it immediately and not really giving you the appropriate time to do your job well, to get them the correct information or the correct design, they're not giving us a lot of time to actually produce the events. So clients more and more are calling saying, we have a major event in 2.5 months. And sometimes that's not a bad thing because I find, sometimes it's good that they don't have time to think about it.
And they can't go back on their decisions.
Right, they make decisions quicker, right?
I agree.
But that's also challenging when you already have a pile of work on your desk and now everything needs to stop because this has to take priority because it's going to happen in about 7 minutes
What's the cost though, right? There's, we've spoken about what we call the urgency tax. You want an event next week? I'll pull it off. I'll stop everything right now for the right price, right? I mean, I think that might be a little bit of an extreme example, but we've pulled off events in a matter of a couple of weeks or a month. If the price is right, we're going to have to drop other things. And I think clients know that, but what's the cost here? If the price is right, we'll be willing to maybe do it, right? So you got to weigh everything out, I think, in terms of that. But like you say, I think sometimes a shorter timeline can be better if decisions are all going to be final. I find sometimes when you're making decisions 6 months out, they go, oh, we don't want to go with the band. We want to go with the DJ now. Oh, this is 4 months out. Oh, we want to go with the duo now. And oh, maybe we do the bar over here. You know what I mean? Because you have time to change. And now all of a sudden you're making more work for yourself over a longer period of time. And if you're flat fee like we do for a lot of events, that just means more work for less money.
That's very true.
Right.
And I am finding you are right with that, because a lot of times I have a stack of events that I still need to start the design process, but I find my days being completely occupied with redoing events that have already been designed.
Yeah.
And now, sometimes, maybe most of the time, it's additions, not even subtractions, as they want to add this, or they rethought it, they want to change it, they want it to be bigger or better. So that's wonderful, but it's also taking a huge amount of our time away.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that you play the game.
Yeah. I think our record is probably about a 9-day turnaround. I think it was just over a week. We had a Christmas party last year. A company came to us. It wasn't big though. It was about 50 to 75. And they said, we want to do our Christmas party at this winery. And I said, sorry, it's Monday. You want it next Wednesday? And they said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, here's the price. And they said, okay. And I said, well, okay, you're okay with that. And then we said, caterer, band, made our calls, menu, done. And you know what? It actually went really well, and it worked out because they didn't really have a chance to waver on any of their decisions. Right. You know what I mean? We told them what we were doing, and it was just literally like, check. And, we had the time and cycles to do it. Yeah. So interesting how it works sometimes, right? So, but yeah, I know what you mean. And just going back on your original point there about being bloodied at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, sometimes you got to come back on Sunday morning, never mind Monday morning. I mean, Monday morning might actually be nice. Sometimes you got to be back 10 a.m. on Sunday morning to tear down or at least, work some things around. So, even worse than having a day off there, it might be coming back the next morning after you've already worked a 16-hour day. So it's not all fun and games and parties. I think a lot of people think that. I do some guest lectures at the local colleges here on event management, and people see the photos and they're like, oh, Mr. Party, and all fun and games. And then I go, wait a minute here. You guys like working 14-hour days and checklists and sweating and stress and expectations, and then they go, oh, maybe events aren't for me. And I go, you got to look at it from every angle, right? They only see the tip of the iceberg. So I think it's really important that we have to expose the whole iceberg, not just that fun.
Yeah, and I think when you find those right people, it's certainly, it's certainly a great match. I mean, I just got back from Vegas speaking at Cater Source, and they had merged with the special event convention. So there was probably 8,000 people. So when you see 8,000 people together, all in this industry in some format, I mean, it is certainly right for the right people. And I certainly wouldn't want to give a bad impression to anybody out there. It's just that it's hard. And if you go into it knowing it's hard, there you go. Then you'll make the call. I just would hate for someone to get into it thinking that it's all fun and games and it's all the pretty party that you see at the end of on the Saturday night. It's just getting there, is the tough part. Yeah.
I always kind of push people towards going into hotels and banquets first. And then they get an idea of your basic layouts, your linens, your tables, your flow. You don't get into the fun stuff like the flowers and the draping and lighting yet, but you get into your basics. And if you still like that, then you can jump into the other side. And then, and it's a consistent job, right? Because event companies are up and down, whereas hotels tend to be a little bit more consistent, benefit packages and all the rest. So what would you define as your signature style? Sort of what elements of decor and design and visuals are you really known for? We've got things like flowers and draping and lighting and candles and linens and furniture and all this stuff. For you, what are your things that you're really kind of known for that you really like using in particular?
Sure. So more than those particular topics as flowers or lighting or draping, what we're really great at is scale.
Okay.
So we're really great at scale and knowing the size of the design that needs to fit in the space. And what we have found, actually we found this through some of our vendors, but and some of our clients, is that is usually the comment that we get. Or if someone is recommending us, it's because they know that we handle scale differently than a lot of our competitors. So I understand how to create something appropriate. And sometimes it's not about being huge. Sometimes it's more about the visual interest of the piece, or what does the room really need. I'm really good at spending your money well and giving you the big bang for the buck. Rather than sprinkling the money everywhere and then it all looks like we did nothing. So our look, it's interesting that you're asking me this question, because just before the virus really hit strong, let's see, today is Tuesday. So 2 weeks ago tomorrow, we were in Omaha and flew to Omaha for a new client who booked us for a job April 20th for 5 days, but obviously that will be happening now, Halloween. But a brand new client that saw me speak at the Cater Source convention, and this is a large scale 5 events in 4 days for 1,300 people. And but the owner of the company said to me, "Why you're here is because when I look at your work, I love the fact that it's so clean and concise." And that really made me feel very, very good. And because he kind of put in words and when I say clean, I don't always mean contemporary or sleek. It's just that I like the idea, when he said that, I liked the fact that he saw that we know how to put design together, and it still looks clean, and it looks like it fits every compartment of the party. So rather than it, I also, mentioned at Cater Source this week, I said, right now you look all over Instagram about how many flowers can I shove in a vase? And now we're calling that design. I mean, the floral walls, the floral arches, the ceilings are covered in flower. Like, it's just as much flowers as you can shove together. Is it beautiful? Of course it's beautiful. But I don't know how creative that is. And it is a trend that's very hot right now. And I'm not going to say I haven't done it for a client who's asked for it. But that's not what I call event design. I mean, you have to call it event design. Of course you do. I shouldn't put it that way. But I just feel like that is not as creative as creating something from scratch that is causing conversation and interest, and rather than just being a pretty Instagram moment. So I think that's what we do really well. And like I said, I like the big bang for the buck. I like something that looks very dramatic, that kind of takes your breath away. And sometimes when I don't have that large budget, I will put all my money into one big statement. And I'll have votives everywhere else if I have to. But that's what I like about us as a team, and I've helped my staff understand that that's who we are as a brand, and they're all really great on jumping on that bandwagon.
No, I find resources are a big thing, whether they're financial or time or what's available, and using your resources as best you can. Because like you say, if you have a $5 million budget, you can just throw a ton of flowers at something and it'll look great, but what about if you got a $50,000 budget compared to that $5 million budget? What can you do on that? And I think that's what really creates or makes a good event designer, is being good with your resources, being good with your budgets, being good with what you have available in terms of staff. If you have 5 million, sure, it's going to look amazing because you can just throw resources at it. It's $5 million, right? So I think being good with your resources is important. And I think, the name of this interview series is Focal Points, which is what you touched on. Is I think you want to have a few pieces of the event that are really dramatic that people are going to remember. If everything is super dramatic, people will probably glaze over everything and they won't remember one thing in particular, right? So I think picking your battles with what you're doing is quite important. I think that's what you're saying. And then the most important point I think you were talking about was around framing, I think you use the term scale, but I think we use it framing. You know, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a stage where people have tried to put floral on the corners, but they're tiny.
Yeah.
They're just lost. They're just
Right.
lost. You need big pieces if you're putting floral on a stage in big vases. And, you know, a cocktail table needs a smaller centerpiece than a 5-foot round, for example, right? So I think it all depends on what you're trying to frame and the size of whatever it is. And that's what we try and do as well. So proper framing will, you know, make things just look right. If it's too small on a table, it'll get lost. If it's a giant piece on a cocktail table, people think that's ridiculous.
Right.
So,
and keep in mind also, Aiden, that the guests at that event, they might not know design at all, but scale is very obvious to most people.
yeah.
Like they might not know how to design anything, but they know what's that little doodad thing on the corner of the stage. Like what's that supposed to be?
Yeah.
People know that, you know.
And when it looks out of place, it looks out of place, because I've seen it before, and you don't have to be an event designer in a lot of cases to know that, wow, they just kind of threw that in as an afterthought. It looks like they ran out of money, and they probably did, but rather than even put anything on the corners of the stage, just don't put anything. Right? At least it doesn't look out of place and you spend a little bit of money. Just don't put anything. Right?
You are right.
I'm glad we agree on that. So,
yes.
So, you know, big question for you. Where do you see yourself in a year or two? I mean, obviously it's trying times right now. We'll get through it. But a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, where do you see the evolution of the company and also yourself just personally?
Yes, sure. You know, our company is really, I mean, I know we've been in business for 32 years, but, you know, there's hills and valleys and you know, we had a challenge the last couple years. We weren't hitting our benchmark of numbers for different reasons. We bought a new building, had to put a lot of emphasis into that. Just some of the events that normally we have, they weren't doing the events for different reasons. So it wasn't even like bad business decision making. It was more of just shit happens, right? But I will tell you, after being in this industry for that long, to have that really hit you in the face was very, very, very eye-opening. And what I have learned is you have got to be out there knocking on doors. I don't care how busy you are, it's never going to last. And I know you've probably heard people say that, and I've heard people say that, but I've never taken it this seriously. Just because you're busy doesn't mean it's always going to be there. So we have been really, really working hard, and thank goodness, knock, 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 it's been working for us. So with that being said, there's a buildup of our company. We've got great things out. We're still going to have great things happening, even whatever's going on in the world right now. I believe that. But, you know, I'm always thinking about what's the next step. We are working out a deal about marketing or being able to make more profit as a brand rather than just the design work. So we're working right now with a company on them using the JMC name and marketing that name out and creating events for them on a smaller scale. So you still have the JMC experience, but maybe they're not the typical JMC price. So there's something nice about that, which I've never had the opportunity to do before. This was someone who had contacted me and said, listen, are you interested in this? And I said, of course we are. We're also designing a restaurant right now, which is kind of fun.
Oh, wow.
So a client of mine is opening up a new restaurant, was asked to design it. It's so funny because I look back and I think, how many years have I said out loud, I'd love to design restaurants, right? And now we're right in the heart of it. So that's been a lot of fun. And hopefully that'll open up more doors to that experience and doing more of that. Because I like the idea of getting paid just for my taste, rather than being up on a ladder at 2 a.m., right? We have to think smarter, not think harder. So that's another thing that's happening. And, you know, it was interesting because even at special events, I had about 350 people in my class. And, you know, after one of my team members was speaking to a young woman who is in the culinary industry, she designs, or she is the chef for a very high-end school. And they were mentioning about how they have wonderful school food at this private school, but it's not, the experience isn't there. Yeah. So she was mentioning that maybe that might be something where they can bring me in and we can talk about this experience that the kids at school can have and how we would make that happen. And which I'm really excited about, and I hope we get that call. And then she mentioned she just finished something with the cooking channel, and that this could turn into something like that, which obviously is very exciting, you know? Yeah. So those are all things that are opening up doors of not just me designing your birthday party. Mm-hmm. And I think the longer we're in this industry, you have to start leading yourself in other areas to make money than just producing those events. It has to eventually lead you somewhere. Mm-hmm. You know, Aiden, my book came out, 2.5 years ago now? Yeah. And you don't write a book to make money. You really do not. I'm sure you've heard that before.
It's a marketing
piece. The book
piece.
has opened up a lot of doors for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. It really has. So, so yeah, and you know, I'm going to be 56 in May. So, you know, I'm thinking about semi-retiring maybe soon. We'll see. I don't think I would ever give this up, but I'm ready to work a little bit less, that's for sure.
Well, it sounds like there's some branching out going to be happening here, which is quite interesting and exciting to hear. I mean, you've got a great skill set with design, which doesn't necessarily mean it's only for the events industry. And I do find that we have a lot of crossover with interior designers, which you're talking about with this restaurant, because we design temporary spaces, they design longer term spaces, but they're still creating an environment, they're creating an atmosphere, they're creating an experience for people. You know, a restaurant is not far off an event, really. You're creating a food and beverage experience for people, which is pretty much the most important part of an event. So it's not far off, it's just a little bit more longer term, and obviously more costs involved, but people get to experience your design for much longer than rather, you know, 3 hours on a Saturday night. So I think there's, you know, you've got a lot of skills that I think I mean, I can see it that you're excited about this opportunity, which is great. Because I think there's more than just the financial component. There's the design and creative component. You know, we all want to be stimulated. We all want to push ourselves and try new things. And this sounds like a great step for you to kind of, you know, not go too far beyond what you're already doing and in a whole new world, but it's kind of the evolution, the next step for you that just makes sense. And I can sense some excitement there from you from that. So
for sure. And you know, it just happens that these opportunities have come to me. And I have to say, I have stopped to think, why have you not been going after these opportunities 5 years ago? Yeah. You know, and I think to myself, like, I should have been, you know, when I was 50, I should have started thinking about this. But you know what happens? We're all wrapped up in the daily work. We're, you know, doing whatever we have to do to make it happen. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. And we'll see. We'll see what it turns into.
Did your screen disappear there?
I see you, but I don't see me. You are right.
Okay. Did you click on the stop video, or
no?
We just lost you there. Oh no.
I apologize. Let me see. Oop.
I don't know what happened there.
I'm gonna unplug and replug.
Okay, let's try that.
See if that happens.
We'll keep the conversation going, though. I mean, so I think what a lot of people don't know that I didn't. Oh, there we go. We're back. Is you know, you and I have known each other for quite some time now. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years.
Probably more.
Probably more, maybe 5.
Yeah, because I think we met at special events. Yeah. And I haven't been to special events in probably 5 years.
Yeah, I want to say it was Orlando. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. And what year would that have been? Maybe 15 or 16, 2015, 16?
Probably.
So, you know, I didn't mention this at the start, but, you know, we speak a fair bit, and I consider you a mentor and a great friend and colleague and all the rest. And I really appreciate all your insight and guidance and strategic help over the years. And I hope that I'm able to provide a little bit in return.
Absolutely. You really have.
But it's always great chatting with you. And, you know, we're kind of nearing the end here, but is there anything you want to tell people here, whether it has to do with coronavirus going forward, events industry, just life in general, like what do you want to leave people with here?
Sure. Well, I don't think we need to talk about the virus anymore
because
you know, we can't. Yeah, we
aside.
definitely cannot let that take over our lives. You know,
Yeah.
but I will say one thing I would want to just say to anybody out there in the industry or not is, and I know it's very cliche, but it's so very true. You have to love what you do, and if you don't, get out.
Yeah.
And that's really what I would want to say. You know, you and I are very lucky to do what we want to do. We love what we do, craziness or not. It's why we're here. But, you know, and I have a lot of people in my life that I know who are in a position where they have to be in a certain job and, you know, you have to do what you have to do. But in the same breath, there is the right occupation for you. And, you know, it shouldn't always be a career or a job. It should be a lifestyle. And I would love for everyone out there to really be not dreading going to work every day and enjoy making your career a part of your life and not just something that pays the bills. So if I could, you know, give that wish to everyone, that's what I would I'd like to say. And if you are hearing this and you think to yourself, maybe that's not me, or that is me right now, right? And that is me, and maybe I'm not really, and maybe you're in this industry, right? And this industry isn't for everyone, like I mentioned before. Find out what your true love is, and you know, you'll go much farther doing what you love.
Yeah, and I think right now is a better time than any, because a lot of people are at home. They're just kind of stuck with what to do. I think this might be a little bit of a catalyst for a lot of people to rethink, you know, what they're doing in life, where they're working, just everything, their habits, you know, what can I do better this year? What can I get rid of? And what better time to really maybe potentially dump that career or that job that you really don't like and get into something that you're actually going to enjoy. So good timing on that. Joe, I appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. I hope everybody gets some great feedback and points out of this, and look forward to chatting again soon. So thank you everybody for watching, and you know, we're going to post Joe's website, social media links below this. Once it's posted, it'll be on YouTube as well. And once again, Joe, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Take care.